Hello, my dear sisters, and welcome to this new class where we will be diving into the world of science and medical terms and hormonal names and all of those details behind your menstrual cycle. So today is a very deep class. It's full of information. It can be a little bit overwhelming for the mind, but we will take it slowly, and you always can replay this video. The information in this video is so important. It is actually a bridge that will lead us to understand the cycle deeper on spiritual level. But we really need to pass through this bridge. Otherwise, we are walking blind in darkness through the menstrual cycle. And for me, this is the real education. I wish I actually received this education when I was in 10th grade or 9th grade. It will totally change my life. I truly believe that literate women are those who are knowledgeable about what is happening in their body. Being knowledgeable, they are empowered by the main wisdom that will allow them to propel and navigate through life in a very confident and very rooted way, rooted in their power, rooted in their femininity. So I prepared my amazing presentation for you. I got my rose sage tea with me, and I'm all ready to dive in. Today's class is all about the love of your cycle. Your cycle is love. And you know, love is actually a very complicated relationship. It means that you are knowing somebody from the depth. You know all the advantages of this person, all the disadvantages, all the darkness and all the light. And then you embrace all of that. And this is what means love. So that which you are going to fall in love is your cycle. When you know it 100%, you know what actually you are to love there. I have developed a love map that will allow me to walk through the days of my cycle. And I'm sharing this with women. So love in this course stands for abbreviation of 4 words. L stands for loyalty, O for omnipresence, V for virtue, and E from epiphany. So each one is symbolizing a certain phase in your cycle. And each one, throughout this education, you will see how each one is actually asking you or suggesting a certain behavior or a certain attitude towards yourself. Now, this is how this map looks like. Right now, this is an empty map. Later, you will see how all of this blank space will be filled with information. But now I just want you to see the basic of it. So here we go. Menstruation is translation of epiphany. It's a time when you are receiving a certain information, like epiphanies. Next one, you are heading to the follicular phase, where you are stepping into being loyal to yourself. Ovulation brings you to omnipresence, where you are ultimately present and aware of everything that is happening. Then you are going to the luteal phase, which is standing for virtue, and so on and so on. Now, in the middle, I have indicated also we have PMS, and for me, this golden color is very important. It is actually for myself in my cycle, one of the most important phases in the whole month. And I wonder if it will be same for you. So you can always reach out and let me know. Now, as we are flowing from menstrual cycle towards ovulation, this is a yang phase. Yang, which means masculine or activating. From ovulation back to menstruation is a yin phase, is where you are retreating back and coming into stillness. So this is how the map looks like. And now we are going to jump into the details. So fasten your seatbelts and let's dive. Ta-da-da! This is how it looks, full of amazing hormones and some little notes and messages that can help you to navigate. Let's start from translating the actual 4 phases. So what do they mean? Menstruation is a time when your endometrial layer, together with unfertilized egg, is being shed, or in other words, your uterus is rejecting that because it's not needed anymore, remember? So in order not to hold it and to invest energy and nutrients into it, the uterus and all the hormones are working towards releasing, and this is called the menstruation. So it's also caused by drastic drop of estrogen and progesterone hormones in your blood. After menstruation, there is a follicular phase, when the follicles are in the process of maturation or they are growing. So it means that just from menstruation, actually the fact that you start menstruating, it's a signal for hormones to start this race. It's called follicle race again. So they go through that. Next one, we have ovulation. Ovulation is a successful release of matured egg from ovary into fallopian tube for further fertilization. Now, the word successful is not here just by an accident, because we will study that sometimes ovulation doesn't happen. Can you imagine that? And you are not even aware of that. So that we will discuss in the next class. But just pay your attention so when we come back to it, you know what I mean. Next one is luteal phase. Luteal phase happens right after the ovulation. It's when the follicle transforms itself into corpus luteum. What is that? We will study as well in this class. Now, these are 4 phases, and it's time now for us to dive deeper and really discover the meaning of each hormone. So we will begin from the menstruation, just like the doctors or gynecologists suggest us that the first day of your cycle is the first day of your menstruation. Let's read the note. So we have a sense of relief, perhaps emptiness, perhaps withdrawal, and sense of beginning. You know, many women share with me that just on like 3rd, sometimes 2nd, 4th day of menstruation, they feel a sense of like, you can exhale. So this is not an imagination of women. It has actually a biological reason. Maybe you feel that towards ovulation you feel like so bloated and so heavy inside in sense of yourself, and then when you start menstruating it's like it's a drop and relief. So this drop and relief is caused by the drop of prostaglandin. There are 2 places where we're going to refer to this hormone, and this is the first one. Prostaglandin is produced in the cell, in the walls of your blood cells. It has actually very important role in your body, without which you cannot go through this, you cannot heal. But it causes very interesting symptoms and signals, most of the time not comfortable. So prostaglandin is responsible for the process of inflammation. If you think of endometrium that has grown after ovulation, and now when it's shedding, it's a wound. It's like cutting the flesh. And where there is a wound, there is always some internal microinflammation. So this is where prostaglandin starts being active. But on the day of your menstruation, prostaglandin drops, so the inflammation is reduced and you feel relief. Next phase, while you are actually menstruating, your body, like a clock, already continues its work. So do you recognize this hormone, GnRH? So gonadotropin releasing hormone. You remember we have hypothalamus inside of our brain, right here. So hypothalamus is sending signal, GnRH, yeah, gonadotropin releasing hormone. The word gonads means sex organs. So this is a hormone that is specifically produced only for reproduction. Now the gonadotropin hormone travels to pituitary gland, and that happens exactly in that time when you are still kind of menstruating but heading towards the end of your menstruation. Gonadotropin releasing hormone starts being active at puberty, yeah? So that's why it says when the ovaries are functional, and it is controlled by the levels of estrogen, which is right here below in your ovaries. So remember, I referred to this in the previous class, that you have this by your computer center that it regulates all the work in your body, but it will not be the controller. The controller sits inside of your pelvis. So the estrogen or the ovaries will dictate to hypothalamus what to do. So this hints us that if there is some kind of issue with gonadotropin releasing hormone, it's not about inside of the brain unless there is an injury or some congenital pathology, which means that a person was born with some kind of brain issue. If the brain is working normally, but there is some disrupt with GnRH, it means something is not working inside of the ovaries that is connected to estrogen. All right, so gonadotropin releasing hormone sent the message to pituitary gland, and that's why you see here there is a rise of FSH. And now it's time for follicle stimulating hormone to send the message to your ovaries that it's time to wake up new follicles. Stimulates growth of follicles in the ovary before ovulation, and it increases estrogen production. So in other words, pituitary gland is knocking on the door of ovaries and says, hey, it's time to produce estrogen. We can have too much of FSH or little. So again, the same way, if there is a decrease in FSH, it's a sign of gonads failures, which means your sex organs are not working correctly. If ovary doesn't create enough of estrogen, the correct feedback from the pituitary gland is lost. And then the follicle stimulating hormone will go to excess. So it means that for your healthy cycle, a clear message and response between brain and your ovaries is needed. FSH now is causing the production and the rise of estrogen. What is happening with the way you feel in this time? So this is muscular skeletal awakening. As you are finishing your menstruation, you feel more energy. You start becoming more active, like physically, literally moving more. Perhaps you are back to yoga class, perhaps you are back to more work, more actions around your house. So you feel that awakening. There is a bone repair and energy returning. Also your cognitive abilities and space orientation. So right here, I want to refer to amazing fact that we are carrying from our animal ancestry. What does it mean that in that time your cognitive abilities and space orientation is back and actually becoming better. If you think of an animal kingdom, now that female animal is heading towards ovulation. So she is about to mate with a male. It means that she needs to pick the best male for her. Now, in our case, as woman being, as a woman human being, we are actually not very far from our animal sisters. So it's like you are walking and searching for that. You are smelling, you are feeling, you are sensing that male, and you use your understanding or your wisdom that will attract that correct male that suits only you. You will see how throughout the map I will refer to this again and again, because in the depth we have that instinct to procreate. And now your hormones, your glands, and your organs are only working as a machine clock towards that reproducing and procreation. So you might be busy with your things, with your projects, but inside of you, there is a program that is working only in that way. And that's why you are feeling sometimes like that. So now, as your instinct for that perfect mating are awakened, the nature is giving you more energy. So estrogen is rising. Estrogen. This is an amazing hormone. So first, I want to tell you that this is a yang hormone or a kind of masculine because it has the functions of doing that work that is very associated with the yang energy. So first of all, when we speak about estrogen, it's not simply just that. Estrogen is a collective name for three basic ingredients inside three hormones, which are estriol, estradiol, and estron. They are a little bit different, but they all work as collective estrogen. So the main function of estrogen is to stimulate uterine lining to grow and to grow the follicle. It's a hormone of building up, of gathering resources and creating something. It's an action. So that's why you feel in that phase of your cycle that you are becoming more active, socializing, communicating, doing actual more physical movement. All of this is a outcome or an effect of having estrogen rise in your blood. Now, good amount of estrogen benefits bones and muscles. That's why you are feeling like maybe if you had a lower back pain before menstruation, maybe if your knees were weak, now you don't feel that, right? So it helps in protein synthesis. So more proteins in your joints, more proteins in your bones and muscles. It helps to build brain, heart. It enhances the sensitivity to insulin, helping to prevent pre-diabetic condition, which means that right now you don't have all that sugar craving. You are actually okay. Did you notice that throughout the month there are different phases when you are like, oh, I want a chocolate or I want something sweet. And there are phases when you don't want that. So this is the phase where you are liberated from sugar craving because you are sensitive. Your insulin is sensitive. So production of estrogen allows to get rid of fat and water from the system. It also is the time when you are exercising and you feel like your body responds to your movement in a very good way. So you might be working out and you see that your abs, your butt, your thighs are becoming in a good tone. Yeah, this is actually because the water that is stored in the fats is released easily in this phase. If the volume of estrogen is low, it can cause osteoporosis. And osteoporosis is an inflammation or a pathology inside of the bone structure. And guess what? Women are more prone to have osteoporosis. Because of living the bleeding life, the menstrual life, we are losing a lot of that special enzymes that build up our bones. And to be honest, in my own practice, and when I'm teaching women, like in yoga classes or movement classes, I'm focusing more on bones, around like 60%, than muscles, because bones in women equals health. So you want to be everything about bones. And funny thing about osteoporosis, that because the bones are so deep, right? You cannot actually test what is the quality of your bone structure right now. So mainly women come to learn that they have osteoporosis only after they have injuries. So you really need to take care of your bones, which means you need to take care of your menstruation and your hormonal health. Now, the low estrogen also causes depression, anxiety, and heart disease. There is a lot of link and connection between heart and womb. You maybe heard many times that heart and womb, and even we place our hands like this, it's not just esoteric thing. Estrogen that is responsible for reproduction also supports the heart, means your second chakra is supporting your heart's chakra. What if there is excess of estrogen? In this case, the periods are really heavy or very long. There is a breast tenderness, again, the heart center, right? Very strong PMS, fibroids, and endometriosis. So this is an excess of yang hormone. And when I speak about yang, if we have excess of yang, it means that woman from being yin becomes too yang, too masculine, too active, too much control. So maybe you can refer to that. This is about psychosomatic response throughout your cycle. That having all these symptoms perhaps is saying that you need to soften, that maybe you are too active. It is very easy for women to have excess of estrogen. You know why? Because estrogen is not only produced in ovaries, it is also produced in fat tissues and in gut, mainly in gut. So we have it, it's abundance. And don't you notice that today women are so active beyond their limit, and that's how they drain themselves very fast. They burn out. Now let's continue throughout our cycle. So now the estrogen, we are in the first quadrant, and we are already in the follicular phase. So the follicles are rapidly growing. As the time passes, you feel that the energy is really becoming high. Your tissues are so resilient. You have positive emotions and really feeling good and sexy being in your body, looking good. All of this has a reason. So here we have a whole bunch of hormones that are supporting this rise of energy. First of all, this phase that is closer to ovulation, but not ovulation yet, yeah, it's the highest peak of the month where you have your energy high. So in a way, we can say that this is the best time to be super proactive, but also in a smart way, yeah? That's why actually I've put this word loyalty here, because if you are loyal to yourself, you are knowing that you are hyperactive, but you will be also cautious or aware of what you are doing. And why you need to do that, why you need to be loyal and conscious, I will explain just in a moment. Now let's look at this endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, temperature rise, testosterone, and cholesterol. All of these I'm going to translate right now. Temperature means that you are actually feeling hot. And I really like this because literally your body temperature feels a bit higher, few degrees higher, and also you're feeling hot in terms of sexy, like attractive to men. You are more interested in men right now. You are more interested in having intimacy with a man. Remember, this is coming from our animal instinct, because now you are on a mission to mate. Perhaps you already found your male and now you are ready, so you are feeling flirty, you are feeling fluffy and sexy. Yeah, this is all having that chemical reason behind. So let's dive to these hormones that are causing you to feel like that. Accompanying hormones. One of them is testosterone. Yeah, testosterone is known as male sex hormone or androgen, but it is also present in women. It is actually important in women, but it has a very small amount. That is amount is not even equal to what men have. Men are actual testosterone, and women just have a little bit in order for them to have that drive, the sexual drive. So it is produced in women's ovaries in small amount, and together with estrogen combined, they help to grow, maintain, and repair reproductive tissues and bone mass. It affects the woman's behavior, which becomes like exactly what I said. You are more active, you are more flirty, you are more sexy. Testosterone is also produced in adrenal glands, fat cells, and skin. We know that testosterone can be in excess, and that causes women to have extra hair or like even mustache here, a body figure which is more masculine. So because this masculine activity, you can identify women who are acting almost like a man. They have very masculine attitude towards life. Now, the next one is serotonin. It is produced in the brain and in the gut, which actually is supported by the food that you eat. So it tones the blood vessels and regulates mood and social behavior, appetite, digestion, sleep, memory, and sexual desire and function. So in other words, it makes you feel really good. This is a sun hormone. So it's a day hormone. It is produced mainly in the morning, and what invests in a good production of serotonin is food or breakfast that you take, which is rich in protein, rich in fiber, and you feel good for the rest of your day. Which you understand the lack of serotonin will give a sense of depression. And it's also with people who don't see sun for a while. So serotonin is not being also supported by the sunlight or vitamin D, right? So during winter, we feel like a little bit dull. And when the summer comes, we are feeling so happy. So this is how serotonin can be felt as emotional manifestation. Dopamine. Dopamine is a regulation of mood and muscle movement. It actually plays in our behavior a role of gratification, stimulation, of pleasure and reward systems. So it motivates you to do something. And funny that I read that people who are into gambling, so they are motivated to get reward, The article said that these people have over amount of dopamine. So they are actually addicted to dopamine stimulating activities. Oxytocin is called the bonding hormone. It is known for the abilities to really create that love relationship between nursing mother and her newborn baby. So when the baby is latching on the breast and stimulating the nipples, that creates release of oxytocin. And this chemical, in other words, creates this trust and reduces anxiety, reduces worry. So this is one of the very feminine hormones that helps women to really soothe their newborn baby who are still recovering from kind of trauma of this labor, right? So it's not only for women who give birth, but in general, oxytocin is present in our blood. It is produced in hypothalamus and transmitted through pituitary gland. It is responsible for gentle contraction of the cervix, and that also relates to that link between the breast and the cervix. So when woman gives birth, she takes her baby and teaches, in other words, teaches baby to latch. So when the baby is sucking the nipple, that creates production of oxytocin, which affects the cervix to start contracting. After labor, it starts closing and coming back to its natural size. So it's healing after labor. So the more baby is sucking, the more healing is happening in cervix and uterus. This is amazing, right? How nature made us that way. This hormone really inhibits cortisol and vasopressin, which are the stress-related hormones that are produced in adrenal. So it means that HPA axis, which is hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands, are receiving support when oxytocin is released. How can you enhance oxytocin? In other words, it's not only about like external stimulation, food, just by bringing yourself into a state of peace and trust and really feeling this nurture by life, you are causing increase of oxytocin in your system. The next one is endorphin. They are kind of similar with oxytocin, and endorphin transmits electrical signals within the nervous system. So if oxytocin works purely inside of the muscles and blood vessels, endorphin also is affecting the nerve ending in the brain, and that works similarly as drugs. It has a sedative or smoothing and calming effect. So it also reduces pain if somebody is in the process of healing. So, sometimes they give morphine or like really strong drugs. Endorphin can be good in that case. This minimizes the physical discomfort and pain and participates in the pleasant part of eating, drinking, physical fitness, movement, sexual intercourse. So these hormones are really stimulating the feeling of good. Yeah, and they are being increased during the time when the estrogen really picks up because you are so close to ovulation. The system is giving you all the best nutrients and all the support to kind of conceive the best human being, right? So remember, your system is only about procreation. So right here where estrogen becomes the highest, this is a time when you are on the peak of your energy, the peak of your communication, socializing. You are feeling emotionally capable to control yourself. You are actually feeling emotional so good. And you are making decision the best way. Subconscious memory is really working here on a very high level. So we can say that this is your best version of yourself time, and you are able to achieve many results or be even multitask. And meanwhile, in your body, this will ask the follicle stimulating hormone to drop. So it looks like this. In your brain, you remember the follicle stimulating hormone was going down towards ovaries to start producing estrogen. Now the estrogen became so abundant that it sends the message back that it's enough. So follicle stimulating hormone is stopping, and when it stops, the other one is dropping the luteinizing hormone, LH. And this hormone is needed for that final eruption or release of the actual egg from your follicle. The luteinizing hormone will cause the ovulation and form the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum is right here. When the follicle releases the egg, the leftover, this little yellow sac, is now being transformed into another gland, and it's called corpus luteum. And you finally are reaching your ovulation. Now, the interesting fact about ovulation is, if you think of it, so you are receiving so much energy, like really boost of energy, and then on that day of ovulation something very drastic happens, and this is not very known to women. Most of the time we are not educated by that. During my work with women, when we start tracking their cycle, they're telling me, actually, I'm feeling so weak, but I'm not in my menstruation. I'm actually in my ovulation. So this is another phenomena inside of your body. And it happens because right now, the body kind of achieved the main purpose of the whole cycle. The fatigue, sensitivity, and low energy can happen because of Mythol. It's such an interesting word coming from German language. Mythol is a signal or a symptom that women are having during ovulation. If you think about it, if you look inside of the ovary, so what is eruption or release of egg? There was a little sac inside of your ovary that was holding that egg for so long. Do you remember, just before you were born, actually, it was already there. So now what happens that it teared and it released. So this is actually almost given birth inside in the depth of your body. So this is a labor that is happening so deeply, right? You release something, and because releasing makes breaking the shell and taking it out, this sometimes is accompanied by sense of being tired, or even sometimes women say that they find like blood spotting in their underwear. Where is it coming from? The blood is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a natural, normal process that can sometimes be overwhelming. Maybe this follicle was a special one. Maybe the shell was really strong, so it teared. And when it teared, that gives a signal to the body that after this race of building up, and finally ovulating is like, ah, now we finally got to the finish line, and now we can exhale. And that's why there is a drop of energy in your body.